Hi, my name is Chick Andy, and I'm a wife, mother, and a domestic goddess. I love cooking for my friends and family, and when I started off, I couldn't even fry an egg. So trust me, if I can learn to cook, you out there can definitely learn to cook as well. So for today, for our first lesson, which is day 987 of the lockdown, no, actually, we're in our third week of the lockdown, but we are so bored. I'm going to teach you how to make chili bites. So the lesson is called Chili Bites 101. Here goes. Let me show you the ingredients. But before we go to the ingredients, let me explain a bit about the history of chili bites. In South Africa, we call it chili bites or bhajias. In India, where it traditionally comes from, it's called pakoras. And it's basically a breakfast snack or a tea time snack that you can enjoy. It's a savory dish and it's absolutely delicious. And generally in Indian families, it's enjoyed with a cup of tea. But as we are in America, you can also enjoy it with a nice cola or a cup of coffee. Just a bit about myself. We are Indians of South African descent. We are fourth generation Indians in South Africa. Our ancestors came from India in the 1860s to South Africa to work on the sugarcane fields. But we have retained our culture, our food, our heritage, our language, and our traditions. My family and I moved to America 2 years ago, and we were initially very homesick. And the one way to maintain your links to your home country is through the food. So today's a Sunday morning, and we are on lockdown. So I've decided to make bhajias or chili bites for breakfast. So let me show you the ingredients and then the method. And then finally, I will show you the finished product, and hopefully you can all try it in your own homes. So here's the list of ingredients. The first ingredient is what we call gram flour. It is chickpea flour, which you can source at most supermarkets. This is the key ingredient in this recipe. Then we have baking powder, which is essential so that it gives it lightness to the savory. A pinch of baking soda, and then spices. You need a pinch of turmeric, a pinch of cumin. It says turmeric here, but Indians, we always recycle bottles. So this is basically cumin, which is in a turmeric bottle, ground cumin. And because we like a bit of zing in our food, I'm going to add a pinch of chili powder. You need some salt, table salt. And then these are the greens that go into the savory. Here I've got spring mix, which I'm going to dice finely. And Mr. Cameraman, if you can bring your camera here, I'll show you. I've got diced onions. I've got cilantro, which I'm going to dice up. I've got a chili here, which I'm going to use half of and dice it up. These chilies here, I'm going to stuff with the mixture as well and fry them. So it's going to be like a stuffed jalapeno. And here I've got diced potatoes, which I'm going to dip into the batter, and you can fry that as well. So here goes the method. Okay. So I've diced up my onion. Now I'm going to dice up my cilantro. And it doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be too fine because this is essentially a homemade dish. So, you just have to dice it as best you can. That's the cilantro. That's my jalapeno. You can de-seed it, but because we like to have a bit spicy, I'm going to leave the seeds in. These you need to be diced a bit finely because you don't want big chunks in any mouthful that you take. Okay, these I'm going to stuff later with the batter mixture. They are not to add into the mixture right now.
And it's best to have all your ingredients diced and readied and prepared before you start, so it makes it much easier to prepare the dish. Okay, so here's my spring mix that I'm going to dice up a bit. The spring mix doesn't have to be cut too finely, because it's going to melt in the hot oil when you put the mixture in to fry. That's it. So I've got my spring mix, I've got my cilantro, I've got my diced onion, and I've got my diced jalapeno. Okay, here I've got some ice water. You could also normally do it with soda water, what we call soda water in South Africa. It adds a lightness to the batter, so the batter doesn't become oily and heavy. But because I don't have soda water today, I'm using ice water. So I'm going to heat up the oil before I start with my mixture. Okay, just going to get the cooking oil. And I'm using normal sunflower oil. This is canola oil that I got yesterday. Generally, it's the best type of oil to use rather than olive oil or coconut oil. If you're going to be frying a dish, sunflower oil is the best one to fry in. So here goes. And my husband always says I'm a messy cook, but I don't clean as I go. I clean once I'm done. So please forgive me if I sometimes come across as being a bit messy. Okay, so you want a fair amount of oil. It's less than half, but yeah, I would say it's about a third of the pan, because you want to essentially deep fry the savories. Okay, so while the oil is heating up, I'm going to start with my mixture. So I've just got a normal mug here. I'm going to measure out 2 cups of flour, which is the gram flour that I showed you earlier. And I generally like to use my hands when cooking, because I find it easier to work with. As I said, I'm not a trained chef. I'm a home cook, and I was a person who couldn't fry an egg, and I do what's best and easiest for me. So this works for me. If you want to use a teaspoon or a tablespoon, you're more than welcome to, or a wooden spoon. Okay, so I'm adding the first cup of flour in, and then go to our second cup. If you want to sieve the flour, you're welcome to sieve the flour as well. I'm just going to break it up with my hands, because there's a bit of lumps here. So I'm just going to break it up with my hands, break up all the lumps. Okay, I think I'm going to add in a little more flour, because I'm also going to be dipping the potatoes, the potato slices that I have here, into the mixture. So I think I'll add in a little bit more flour. But the potato will be a second savory. I would say another cup. Okay, again, breaking up the lumps. As I said, you could sieve it if you wanted to. It makes your life a bit easier. Okay. Okay. And you want to break up the lumps, because you don't want lumps of dough in the savory when you're eating. So you want the flour to be fine before you even start to make the savory. As I said, I'm just breaking it up with my fingers. Alright, I'm happy with that. And now for a pinch of salt. The salt, the amount of salt you add has to cater for the vegetables that you're putting in as well. So it's a guesstimate. I would say a little more than a teaspoon for this quantity. Okay, I've added in my salt. Now I need to add in my spices. A pinch of turmeric. You don't want to add too much turmeric because turmeric has a very intense color. A pinch of turmeric. Cumin. Cumin is a lovely spice. So you can add in a teaspoon of cumin. Actually a little bit more. And then I'm going to add in a pinch of chili powder. Chili powder. The chili powder can be omitted if you don't want it too spicy. Okay. Can you see the lovely colors in there? The turmeric, the chili powder, the cumin. I've added in the salt. Okay. Now for the baking powder, because as I said, we want the savory to be light and fluffy. A teaspoon and a bit of baking powder. Teaspoon and a half of baking powder. And literally a pinch, just a pinch of baking soda. You don't want to be adding too much baking soda. A pinch, less than a pinch. I won't be using all of this. A pinch of baking soda. Okay, so our spices are in. We're going to incorporate them into the flour. So we've added our seasonings to the flour. Okay. All right. So I'm going to reserve some of this flour for the potatoes, which I'm going to take out separately into another bowl. This I'll be using for the potatoes, to dip the potatoes in. All right, we're ready to go. All right, so I'm going to add in my diced onion. If you've diced too much, you can always keep it aside. Just use your judgment as to how much you want in the mixture. Then in goes my cilantro. My spring mix. And last but not least, the jalapeno. Okay, and now we're ready to mix. So I'm going to add my water gradually. You've got to be careful to add the water in gradually because you don't want it to be too runny, the mixture to be too runny. So I'm adding in the cold water, the ice water. Okay, and I'm mixing, I'm incorporating the vegetables into the mixture. You don't want a very runny dough because you won't be able to work with it if it's too runny. If you feel it's a bit thick, you can always add a little bit more water. I'm just going to add a little bit more water in here. It's a bit messy, but this is the best way to do it. You're going to have to do it with your... I use my fingers, but if you want to use a wooden spoon, you're welcome to use a wooden spoon as well. Okay, just to show you the mixture, it's not too runny and it's not too thick. It's a dropping consistency. Almost like a cake mixture, a dropping consistency. Okay, now I'm going to check if my oil is hot. It should be. Okay, before I do that, I'm just going to prepare a baking tray with some paper towel to absorb the oil as the chili bites or the bhajias come out the oil. So take some paper towel. Bit of a balancing act. My hands are messy. I have my paper towel ready. Okay, and now I'm going to check if the oil is hot enough. Okay, that's perfect. You want that sizzle when it goes in. And you want to have a spatula ready to be able to take out the savories as they fry. So I'm adding in the savories. You could use a tablespoon. I'll show you what it's like with a tablespoon. You put a mixed piece into the tablespoon and you drop it into the hot oil. I prefer to use my fingers because I like to get a round shape. It must slide off your fingertips. Can you hear the sizzle? That means the oil is at the right temperature. And you want to leave some space in between the savories as you put them in between the chili bites, so that they have adequate space to cook in. I'm just rinsing my fingers. Okay, you're frying on one side. If you feel the oil is too hot, you can always lower the heat. Alright. Once you see bubbles starting to form on the top of the savory, you can see it better now. Once you see bubbles starting to form on the top of the savory, then you know it's like time to turn over. There, I can feel that one has loosened. It's come off the top, so it's time to turn it over. Can you see they almost like turn themselves. And you're looking for a nice golden brown color. They don't take much time to cook at all. I'm just going to let it cook on the other side. You let it fry for about 3 to 4 minutes. Let your eyes be the judge. With cooking, it's, for me anyway, it's my eyes, the sense of smell, the sense of taste. But initially I would say, if you're new to this process, I would say 3 to 4 minutes. But they instantly start turning a golden brown. So once they start turning a golden brown, they're ready to come off the heat. Okay, I'm very happy with how these look. They're fluffed up nicely. That's the baking powder in there and a pinch of baking soda. And you can see all the green vegetables that I've added in there. Okay, I'm about to take these out. I'm just going to let them brown a little bit more. About to come out. I'm using a spatula because you want the oil to drain as you take them out the oil. So have a spatula and a tablespoon ready to help you to put it onto the spatula. Okay. I'm just dropping the oil and I'm putting them onto my paper towel to drain. Okay, I'm just letting them drain here. And to serve, you would basically take a few of your bhajias or chili bites, as we call them, and you would serve them with a chili sauce or a sriracha sauce or tomato sauce or ketchup. So here, there's our first video of Chili Bites 101. Please try and give it a go. It's a great savory. And in our next video, which we will shoot, I will then show you how to do the potato slices into another savory. But for now, that's the end of Chili Bites 101. Enjoy. And I'm going to sit down to a nice cup of tea and enjoy my chili bites. Ciao, till we meet again. This is Chic signing off.